Hello and welcome back to Worlds of War Studios presents 5 in 15, where we show you 5 rounds of Warhammer 40k in just 15 minutes. Today for our matchup, we have Chris Payton's Necrons versus Adam Johnson's Genestealer cults. It looks like it's going to be a great match today. For today's mission, the deployment zone will be Hammer and Anvil, giving each player a rectangular deployment zone coming off of the short edge of the board. For mission rules, the players have drawn Maelstrom of Battle, which instructs the players to draw 2 additional mission rules for this mission. The first of those missions is Targets of Opportunity, giving each player 3 tactical objectives instead of 2 if they do not go for fixed objectives. Additionally, the players have drawn Secret Intel, which allows the players to draw an additional objective if they are not using fixed objectives, and discard one of those objectives. This game, players will draw 4 total objectives each turn and discard one of those, giving them a great choice of 3 objectives. Today's primary mission is Vital Ground, giving each player 2 victory points if they control their home objective, 6 victory points if they control their opponent's objective, and 5 victory points for each objective they control in No Man's Land. Chris has won the roll-off this game, so he will be going first. Going into his first turn, he will be looking to score no prisoners, overwhelming force, and secure No Man's Land. Adam, on the other hand, will be looking to score extend battle lines, engage on all fronts, and a tempting target. Let's see how it goes for them today.
So yeah, tonight I was playing my Necrons. I wanted to try my the Annihilation detachment, so it was pretty much all destroyers all the time.
Yeah, and this is kind of a me and Chris grudge match. We've played Necrons against Genestealer cult quite a few times in the past couple of editions.
Yeah, I think since I started playing against you in 8th edition and 9th edition and now 10th edition, Necrons versus Genestealer cult. And I can't help it that you have PTSD about shooting Necrons that are on destroyer platforms, but apparently I wasn't allowed to use them this game, just like every other game I put them on the table.
Yeah, I mean, what I knew I had to prioritize getting rid of the destroyers. One nice thing I had going for me is on Objective A, I had my lone operative Reductus Saboteur, so I didn't really have to worry about him getting affected with much of anything for most of the game, which was really nice. But I knew that on Chris's Objective A, I had to get rid of that unit of destroyers back there.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it, but it still doesn't feel good because the problem is with this list, because I don't ever build my list to tailored to like defeat Adam's list or whoever I'm playing. I build them to kind of be all comers because with our series being competitive based, it's more of a, hey, what would I bring to a tournament? I don't know what I'm going to be playing against. So the problem I had was I had 3 units of heavy destroyers, which he could basically ignore because they only get 3 shots. Because I brought the anti-tank version, and he only had 1 vehicle that I could see, which I already killed. But my ones that had lots of shots, he just deleted before I even got to fire them because since I went first, I basically just moved and couldn't see anything. So it was move and pass turn.
Yeah, super light infantry really don't care much about heavy destroyers with their whopping 3 shots. But the regular destroyers, demo charges, that was my prime target on them, was able to take my units off the board during Chris's first turn, bring them back in. Chris had the bad luck of going first against Genestealer cult, which is not a place you want to be in.
It's very frustrating because they don't have hardly anything on the table, and everything they do have on the table is hidden.
Yep. You're not playing the edition right if you're not having stuff hidden and out of the way.
Which does, honestly, after this weekend, we normally play multiple games in a row and, over a period of days. And I have gone first every single game. And I will tell you, if your opponent uses the terrain correctly, going first is miserable because you basically just lose a turn.
Unless you've got some sort of Alpha Strike army like Word Bearers, the Chaos Space Marines right now can kind of deal with going first. If you're not playing one of those, going first can be kind of devastating.
Because you just move, you might take a couple of pot shots if you're lucky, and then you're just done.
Tau will like going first because they can do a lot of deep strike shenanigans nowadays.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like in another game, I had a Necrons, and I was doing the thing where I could pull a bunch off the table and redeploy them. Oh, wait, I went first, so I couldn't do it till the end of my opponent's first turn, which means my first turn was walk forward slightly and do nothing. And this game was float forward slightly and do nothing, and then get a butt kicked with a bunch of demo charges.
Yeah, demo charges really did a number on that unit of destroyers. I did have to shoot with my second squad of neophytes to finish them off. Chris popped his Resurrection Orb, which is the right thing to do when you get decimated like that.
But you know what? It's not my fault that 25 years ago, some guy bad touched you with Necrons, and so I have to deal with it every time we play now.
Listen, a guy named Andrew put the fear of Necrons into me so many times back in the day. So many dead Genestealers. So many dead.
And they should all be dead because the only good bug is a dead bug.
Ah. At the end of turn 1, Chris has scored 2 points for no prisoner and 5 points for secure no man's land, giving him a total of 7 points for the turn. Meanwhile, Adam has scored 5 points for each of his objectives, giving him a total of 15 points in turn 1. Going into turn 2, the total score is Chris with 7 and Adam with 15. For the following turn, Chris will have Storm Hostile Objective, Overwhelming Force, and Investigate Signals to accomplish. Meanwhile, Adam will be trying to accomplish Overwhelming Force, No Prisoners, and Capture Enemy Outpost. Let's see how they do. So, I gave Chris a little bit of a spanking in turn 1. It wasn't super bad for him. He's going to have some good crackback against me here. One big thing was I did decide not to charge with my Genestealers on the top objective B. I really just had to take that objective from him, and I was able to do that without engaging him in combat.
And the problem I knew that the problem he had was that if he had charged me and I did halfway decent in combat, he wouldn't get the objective.
Yeah.
And so he needed the points. The problem I had at this point in the game was I had lots of Necrons that he was going to struggle to kill, but my Necrons couldn't really kill a lot because when you have 9 models that get one giant anti-tank shot and you're firing against a bunch of 20-man, infantry units, it doesn't really do much because the problem with heavy destroyers is they're great at taking out tanks, and if you do bring some that have the troop-killing guns, that's great, but when you don't, and you only get 2 attacks per guy in melee with no AP, you aren't killing a bunch of dudes. So luckily my Ophidian destroyers, they went after your Abominants.
Yeah.
And they did hurt him pretty bad, but the crackback was bad. It was definitely a knockdown fight there. But my Skorpekh destroyers up at the top of the screen, they basically killed some Genestealers and then just kind of moped around for a while. Because I think my other Skorpekh unit you just deleted.
Yeah, I did. This game is a good example of what you really should be looking at in 10th edition, which is always be playing objectives. I'm doing pretty well at this point in the game. One thing I think I did a little bit wrong here is you can already see it, is that we are focusing super hard on the southmost middle objective. Mm-hmm. And it is a losing battle for me. And as Genestealer Cult, I have the ability to just get the heck out of there, and I didn't. I just made the mistake of I'm going to fight it, and fight it.
Because the thing is, my Ophidian destroyers, I lost some, but once the Abominants were dead, I started bringing them back, and you weren't killing them as fast as I could bring them back.
Right.
And when Ophidian destroyers, they're not great, believe me. Compared to like Skorpekh destroyers, they're not nearly as good. But when you slam 6 or 12 Ophidian destroyers into some basic troops, yeah, they'll just slice and dice and make so much stacks of Genestealer baloney.
Well, and after I've thrown my demo charges, my troops are the most basic of troops.
Yeah, because that was the one thing I did, I guess you could say, was somewhat of a relief, is once he did pop a lot of demo charge abilities, is I didn't have to deal with that for a couple of turns.
Yeah. I actually had to retreat back to my home field to take care of your... those the sniper guys that came in?
Yeah, I brought in some snipers. They were basically just deep strikes to go, get objectives for me or secondaries. But yeah, there was a unit of 5 Deathmarks, which are just my snipers.
Yeah, so I had to go back and take care of the Deathmarks. Brought my Achilles Ridge Runner out a little bit to be able to put a little bit of firepower into them. But the Ridge Runner has a mortar, and it's really just there to give me extra AP for the rest of my units against
basically
what they're
just
going
tag
against.
Units.
Yeah, tag units get them extra AP. When you're shooting as many basically las guns as I'm shooting, they're strength 3 weapons. You really have to have something to give them some oomph.
Yeah, I mean I can definitely see that. Because I never could get to the Ridge Runner, but it also it's neat, but it didn't do a whole lot. Even with the tagging, it was like it was helpful, but hopefully not too expensive in points.
No, it's not a lot. I think the AP did a lot.
Gotcha.
There were a lot of saves that you failed because you weren't getting cover and you were taking an extra AP.
Well, and because the problem is he always seemed to have an ability to also take away my cover.
Well, that's Genestealer Cult's whole thing. When we deep strike in, we get to ignore cover. We get sustained hits, so it's a really big thing for us.
So I will tell you that combo. So Genestealer Cult are, I guess, they're not in a great place right now. But I will say this: they have tricks. Their problem that I've noticed, even in our game, was good luck standing on a primary objective when it's time to count points for your team, because you get on there, you kill something, and then I just go and backhand them off that objective, and then I might not get the objective, but you don't either.
Yeah, we're like bacteria on a bathroom doorknob. We can get a whole bunch of guys on there, but one swipe with the alcohol wipe and we're gone.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
It's real bad for us.
But it's turn 2 was interesting. Turn 2, a lot happened. It was lots of movement, some killing, but lots of movement. And I'll tell you, watching Genestealers just pop up, pop here, pop there, go there, move here, it's fun. It'll put your head on a swivel.
In turn 2, Chris scored 2 points for primary objectives, 5 for Storm Hostile Objective, 3 for Overwhelming Force, and 4 for Investigate Signals, giving him a total for the turn of 14 points. Meanwhile, Adam scored 2 for primary objectives, 5 for No Prisoners, 8 for Enemy Outpost, giving him a total of 15 points for the turn. So far this game, Adam has a slight lead, managing to score 30 points to Chris's 21, but it's still anyone's game. Going into turn 3, Chris is trying to accomplish Engage on all fronts, Extend battle lines, and Cleanse. Meanwhile, Adam is attempting to accomplish Overwhelming Force, Storm Hostile Objectives, and he is also attempting to accomplish Cleanse. Let's see how it goes for them.
So, going into turn 3, going first, it was very interesting trying to kind of capitalize on stuff, trying to hold objectives, trying to peel him off objectives. Because again, like if you'll look in the back on my side, which would be the left side of the screen, I've got 6 heavy destroyers there and a reanimator trying to deal with one puny little squad of troops. So I've got like 300 points, 400 points worth of dudes trying to kill like 150 points worth of ugly guardsmen.
Now, one thing with Genestealer Cults is they have icons that will allow them to regenerate guys. That was clutch in this game.
Necrons should be the only ones that can do that.
Well, I'm not regenerating. They're just coming out of the woodwork. There are more guys around. They're all hiding.
Just whack them all. Just
yeah. So you didn't whack the moles hard enough, and they came back. I did start getting units back on this turn that were killed. Over the course of this game, I think I lost 4 units and got 2 of them back. So a pretty good return.
Yeah.
But it feels bad with how much we were able to get back before.
I will say it was really interesting because I think it would have been absolutely brutally unwinnable if I had to play pre-nerf Genestealer Cult. The problem is they went too far. They swung the pendulum back the other way too hard, because I think if he'd been bringing back 100% of his units, and I know you would have brought more basic units if you had that.
Absolutely.
Well, especially because you said your list went up 300 and something points. So if he'd had 300 more points worth of dudes on the board and guaranteed to bring them back, I would have had no chance. I would have just been. It would have looked like a scene out of a zombie movie where a car's getting just covered in bodies. Just Necrons just being dragged to the ground.
And that's the way the Genestealer Codex was supposed to feel, or the Index was supposed to feel. I think they swung a little bit too heavy. They either needed their comeback nerfed or they needed their points nerfed. And we got hit by both, and it feels bad.
Yeah, well, and it just, like, even in this game, like, even though I just couldn't seem to kill a lot. I mean, I wasn't sweeping whole units off the table left and right. But yet I still just couldn't seem to swat them away, yet at no point did I ever feel like I was truly losing the game either.
Yeah, you pretty much had a solid footing the entire game. I felt like I was just nicking away at you. Like I could never make a real true inroad anywhere. Mm-hmm. It was just little cuts here and there.
Although overall, I am liking the Annihilation detachment for the Necrons. I'm definitely going to change my list a little bit. I mean, I've got stuff in the mail already, guys, so you'll see a new battle with them, soon enough. But I think just, all destroyers all the time is a really interesting way to play.
Yeah, it seems strong. It seems real strong.
For turn 3, Chris has scored 10 for primary objectives, 5 for engage in all fronts, 5 for extend battle lines, and 5 for cleanse, giving him a total for this turn of 25 points. Meanwhile, Adam has scored 2 for primary objectives, 5 for storm hostile objective, and 3 for cleanse, giving him a total for the turn of 10 points. And with the points this turn, Chris has pulled ahead to a slight lead of 46 points to Adam's 40. Going into the next turn, Chris is attempting to score behind enemy lines, attempting target, and capture enemy outpost. Adam is attempting to score overwhelming force, area denial, and behind enemy lines. Let's see how they do.
So, going into turn 4, things were looking kind of bleak for me. Necrons are such a hard army to really make inroads into if you can't kill entire units. I've had a couple of times here during this game where I'd kill a good number of Chris's models, but you have one guy left. And when you're getting back 2d3 wounds, right?
It's 1d3, but if you have a reanimator nearby, which my destroyers did, and I was getting really good reanimation protocols. I'd roll like a 5 and a 6 and get, 4 or 6 wounds back. So it's like, here's a 4 wound model and then 2 wounds on another model. So I'd go down to 1, back to 3. Down to 1, back to 3.
Yeah, each time, and I'm just not hitting hard enough to clear out an entire squad. One thing that's weird with the nerf is that with not getting our guys back as easily, it means that I can't throw my demo charge guys away in hopes of getting them back as often. It takes some of the punch out.
Because now you have a 50-50 chance you may not get them back. Because I think he did get them back, and he nukes my Skorpekh destroyers, but I'd already got my secondary there, so. I didn't really... it's not that I didn't care. It was just one of those where I'd kind of already done what I needed them to do. And, I threw them out in the middle, but I wasn't expecting demo charges again.
Yeah, you were trying to take that objective A on the right, and I was able to come back with that fresh squad of demo charges and just destroy that whole lot of dudes. Oh, yeah. But then I'm kind of stuck there. I needed my command points for secondaries to jump around. Chris, by the end of his turn 4 here, had basically scored all the points he could, and there was nothing he could prevent me from doing.
Right, so basically, you'll see here, we don't even really have a turn 5 for you guys to watch, because my turn 5 consisted of, I'll score my primaries, I have no secondaries to score, I've already hit my max, and past turn, because I couldn't stop him from doing anything, I didn't have enough models on the table.
And my turn 5 was just me scoring the secondaries, the primaries as I could, so, because we had both already maxed our secondaries.
Yep.
Good game, Chris.
It was an interesting game.
By the end of turn 4, both players had maxed out their secondary objectives, with Chris scoring behind enemy lines, tempting targets, and capture enemy outpost, and Adam scoring overwhelming force, area denial, and behind enemy lines. Over the course of the last 2 turns, Chris was able to score 20 points for primary objectives, meanwhile Adam was only able to score 19 for primaries. This leaves us with Chris having a final score of 32 on primary objectives, 40 for secondary, and 10 for paint, leaving him with a total of 82 points. Adam, meanwhile, scored 23 points for primary objectives over the course of the game, 40 for secondary, and 10 for paint, leaving him with a final total of 73. Game win for Chris.
Well, Adam, guys, this was a very interesting game with my new codex. I will say, I am actually really, really loving the way they're doing the codexes now. Whether your codex is super powerful, if you think, or not, is that they feel much more flavorful again. Like, for example, I can now build an all-destroyer list and actually have stratagems and attachment rules and enhancements that are specifically geared towards me born all-destroyers, or all-warriors, or all Canoptek, or, the Silent King and all his stuff. And so what's really cool about that is that you can feel like you actually have stuff for your army, and you're not just building an all-destroyer list because you can, and you can actually make a good list to play with out of it.
I had a lot of fun. I felt like Necrons were really strong, which is great. But the big thing is this game, it felt like a game. Sometimes you play Warhammer games and you just feel like, one person's playing and the other person is just sort of there.
Yeah.
But it felt like a game. We had a lot of back and forth. We had some really good moments. A lot of killing, a lot of dying. Very grimdark. There is only war.
There is only war. But guys, overall it was a fun game. It was a great test of my new codex. I'm ready to jump back in and see how this list can do again, even though there's 2 other lists that I'm really jazzed about trying out, because I could use completely different units and not touch my destroyers and have more viable lists. So guys, watch out for the future. We're going to have more games for you.